Honorable Chief Guest, Captain Jairam, esteemed panelists, I don't think they need any introduction. They are very well known to the industry. And I think that when the moderators do ask them a question, maybe we can ask the panelists to give a short introduction of themselves just for the sailing seafarers who may not have heard of them if they were different companies, but I don't know. Sailing seafarers, our learned moderators, Captain Halbe and Mr. Rai, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and a great privilege to welcome you all to the second edition of this unique webinar put together by Editor and Chief of Maritime Destination, Mr. Gagan Pandey. The response to the first part, which was hosted on 8th of July 2021, was laden with enthusiasm and positive energy. This perhaps prompted Mr. Gagan Pandey to continue this interaction, and we will see more of these editions in time to come. India, as you all know, at the moment is in a euphoric state, despite the continuing pandemic. This is a direct result of the historical achievements of the Indian Olympic contingent. The brave and all-out effort by each of the participants was truly inspiring. Heartiest congratulations to the winners and all the participants. I think more and more glory is in store for India as time goes by. Also, just yesterday, our Prime Minister chaired a session of the UNSC on maritime security. This was the first time an Indian head of state actually chaired a session at the UNSC. Though this session focused primarily on border issues and threat perceptions on the high seas and the means to counter it, the basis of all discussion was under UNCLOS, which is the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. This treaty provides the regulatory framework on the usage of oceans and seas, and therefore directly impacts all of us in the maritime industry. Various articles in UNCLOS governs various aspects of the bodies, for example, the flag state, the port state, etc., etc. The theme of connecting sea to shore definitely connected a few maritime minds, as we witnessed in the last seminar. As I mentioned in the last seminar, that the maritime industry is the mother industry. In other words, every industry is dependent on the maritime industry so that their transactions are completed in a profitable and a timely manner. The seafarers, for their part, are really the backbone of this maritime industry. We have seen in the ongoing pandemic how effectively the maritime industry has performed. Sitting where I sit, I have also witnessed some supreme sacrifices by the seafarers and their families to keep this industry running effectively. Kudos to them. We have also seen how the shipping companies reinvented themselves and have been tackling the pandemic with some great innovations. And this largely was done in India. And then everyone else followed suit. The theme, therefore, is of great relevance. How do we make things better for the sailing staff and those who assist them from ashore? Can we create a greater bond between them? Can they become an extension of each other so that any problems faced by them are tackled with unified efforts? Are the seafarers using the correct platform to air their concerns or suggestions? And does the shore staff cater to them so that positive changes can be made? There are many aspects of what seafarers feel which are already tackled under the MLC. But here, we will not talk about that. We will not talk about the wages and the food, because that varies from company to company. But we will ask our participants to be to contribute in terms of how unified efforts between them and their counterparts at shore will lead to more fruitful results. These are some of the questions we will seek to discuss in today's webinar. To this extent, we will hear from the sailing staff, and then our learned moderators will seek the views of our esteemed panelists. As mentioned in the first seminar, Maritime Destination will prepare a paper covering the discussions on the webinars and share this paper with the industry through the various associations. So, ladies and gentlemen, to set the ball rolling, I now invite Sailing Master Captain Almeida to present his views. Captain Almeida, kindly unmute yourself and let's get the ball rolling. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and thanks. Thanks for allowing us such a wonderful platform to air our views. And I'll try to open this discussion with a subject very close to our hearts: getting our seafarers home. Can you all hear me? Because I feel there's some disturbance in the background.
Yes, Rahul Chaudhary, can you please mute yourself, Rahul Chaudhary?
Yeah, sorry, sir. Sorry.
Thanks. I'll just repeat. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I would just like to start to get the ball rolling, as Sanjay Mani put it, by talking about a subject which is very close to our hearts, basically getting all our seafarers safely back home. We are well aware of the extensive and exhaustive behind-the-scenes efforts put in by those in authority in India to streamline the process of getting us home. But as a sailing master and from a commercial perspective, the charterers are also central to allow crew reliefs. As you all know, hesitancy is very high as far as crew changes are concerned, because they often disrupt the future trading of the vessel. As a mariner sailing on tankers, I would like to discuss key points on the contractual drafting of the crew change clause nowadays seen on charter parties. One example commonly seen is the BIMCO charge, which is drafted in response to the extraordinary conditions we faced last year during the lockdown. And this clause is designed to give owners the liberty to deviate for crew change under tightly defined conditions. It also provides an option, I repeat, an option for charterers to contribute to the crew change in recognition of the extraordinary cost for making a COVID-19 related crew change, and also mentions that the charterers have a shared interest in an efficient, rested, and well-performing crew on ship. Now, all this sounds lovely to hear and read. However, the facts are very far from the well-intentioned clause. Firstly, personally, I have not seen or heard from fellow batchmates that this clause has actively been put into regular charter parties and rarely features on the bill of lading. Charterers are reluctant to add this clause with the uncertain nature of costs. And another clause is the infectious diseases clause, which is often also used, but tried to be used rather, but they are also considered unfair to charterers, since the entire liability of costs rests with the charterers and is hence generally avoided. Second point, due to the general non-inclusion of the above clauses, most operators will initially avoid deviating the vessel, since sharing the financial burden rests predominantly with the owners. Charterers are not known to be overtly generous and will accept crew change where convenient for them while efficiently passing on all of us the cost. Third, the overriding factor, deviating the vessel, is generally always as per the convenience of the charterers, during the loaded voyage at least, and the complexity of organizing this around specific dates is, especially on short notice, is logistically challenging for the Indian manning offices. Among others, Indians also have, unfortunately, a visa problem far away from India, transiting to other countries. So the further we are, the bleaker our chances of getting a crew change. This is the specific reason why there have been a huge crew change around the Indian coast, specifically Kochi and now also Trivandrum. I am sure on behalf of all mariners, will be eternally grateful to the Indian Maritime Administration and others involved for enabling such options last year and continuing to do so this year. However, I would request you to think about all those mariners whose vessels never sail past our shore or come close. Almost arrogantly, in stark contrast to the crew change clause, when there is a COVID-19 case on board the vessel, off-hire happens almost immediately with huge costs and wait-out times, depending on which country and port. So while the charterers expect unimpeded and efficient port turnaround times, the seafarer is the problem, or the master in some cases, for not handling COVID cases correctly and leaving the owners to foot the bill. So here, I would urge honorable members of our maritime community to put forward a concerted effort to push for an acceptable COVID-19 crew change clause, not optional, but compulsory. Further, to try and pressurize internationally and incorporate an agreeable and equitable sharing version of the clause in all charter parties, and most importantly, enforcing the sharing of costs among operators, owners, charterers, and important stakeholders. These costs should not be passed over to manning agencies who during the COVID years have been expected to cope with frugal budgets and organize crew changes. The charterers and owners have been raking in good returns, and they should learn to accept the cost of trading in such circumstances. Finally, in India, nationally, we need our Government of India Sagarmala plan to be tweaked a bit to focus on robust marine infrastructure, immediately centered in enhancing the crew change for Indian seafarers, focused on causing minimal delays and providing a green channel treatment to all joining seafarers. This is already happening, but much more work needs to be done. Few points personally which I've experienced and can suggest is increasing the crew change vessels or crafts used to conduct multiple crew changes. As an example, I can talk about Kochi. There are just 2 tugs, or most often 1 tug, for using a crew change, and they double up for berthing and unberthing of vessels. So if there is any ship movement, the entire crew change is delayed. Nothing happens at night. Plus, due to 1 tug, there is a limiting number of crew that can be swapped per rota. Another point, reducing the waiting times for ship as much as possible. Many a times, the crew have to go out, get cleared by immigration, and only then the ship is allowed to sail. So this increases transport time. This increases times in port ever so slightly. And the better we have it, the better. Lesser times we have, the more better it will be to have a crew change. We have a 7,500 kilometer coastline, and I think we can increase our crew change hubs other than what we are now using. We can have hubs like Paradip, Port Blair, which is not used at all, and also improve our mandatory quarantine facilities, citing Krishnapatnam and Paradip from quite sad experiences to those mariners being in quarantine there. Importantly, an idea with capping the agency fees or collaboration between agencies organizing crew cost on the same day. The prohibitive costs are daunting for several owners at times, and even though they pass the coast, they just don't conduct a crew change. If these costs can be capped to a reasonable level and shared by all those conducting the crew change, this will provide relief to all involved and encourage owners to consider India as a preferred destination. In conclusion, a new standard compulsory crew change clause, sharing costs with all stakeholders, coupled with a super efficient crew change facility at various strategic locations on our coastline, will not only lead to Indian seafarers benefiting, but other nationalities will also consider using our facilities to conduct crew change. Singapore at the minute is totally shut and has several roadblocks for crew change. And this is the time to step up and increase our market share, competing with Sri Lanka and Singapore. So this was my take on my contribution from the sailing staff. Thank you very much. And I'll give the chair back to Sanjay Mani.
Thank you, Captain Almeida. I think that is a very great perspective, and I think you've highlighted a very important problem. I'm sure Captain Halbe and Mr. Rai have made note of it, and will ask the panelists to respond to some of your suggestions. Moving on.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Moving on, can I request Chief Officer, Sailing Chief Officer, Mr. Abhay Pandey, to present his views, please. You can please unmute yourself, Mr. Pandey.
Good evening, everybody. This is Abhay Pandey, and it's really great to have everyone in the panel whose name only we have heard in so much of time. But this is the first time I have seen the faces of all. Only few people I have seen their faces, and this is the time we are very grateful to Mr. Pandey who has organized this meeting. So I will not take much of a time. The most typical and difficult times of the COVID times, our Captain Almeida has already covered the sign-on and sign-off issue, which we are really facing on. So as a capacity of Chief Officer, I would only like to add some of the points which we are really facing on board our ship as a chief officers. Like for these days, for implementation of ISM, the paperwork has been tremendously increased and the crew has been decreased. Like most of the time, we don't get a cadet or some junior staff to do our paperwork. And in the previous time, we used to say that container ships or tanker ships, they have very less port stay. But nowadays, since I'm sailing on even on bulk carriers, where this port stay time is very limited, and this paperwork for the company and paperwork for the shore side is also increased, and we are shortage of the people there on board. Even if we make some demand through the master to the company, also they denied quite of the time. This is one of the issues we are facing on day-to-day basis. The second one is, even once we are, in the sailing also, once we are going to very heavy, like Singapore Strait or some other state where there is plenty of the ships there, plenty of the traffic, and still we have to concentrate more onto the navigation part than to concentrate onto the paperwork there. But still for this navigation also, we have so much of a checklist that many of the times people are busy doing checklists only, even into that crowded strait of Singapore or something like that. This second point of mine. The third one is, this is not the thing which I am feeling. This is for our shipping community. Since I am doing ASM also from FOSMA, and our faculty from the FOSMA, they have taught us a very good thing, that Section 381 of Merchant Shipping Act, that into the new Merchant Shipping Act which is coming, they are abolishing Section 381, which was a safeguard for us, like a master and mate and chief engineer. If in any mishap, if the things come so that our COC has to be, forfeited, or if they have to cancel our COC, then this power was only to the court. But now with the new Merchant Shipping Act which is coming, they have abolished this Section 381. So on the behalf of my teachers in FOSMA, I just wanted to put this point in front of the panel. If we could do something about this, this is just a thing. Thank you from my end. Thank you. I will pass this chair again to Captain Mani. Sir, you are on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Pandey. I'm sure your concerns will be addressed by our esteemed panelists. We did have the ISM bit in the last seminar as well, and we had some great responses from the panelists. So we look forward to their views this time as well. Moving forward, may I request Second Officer, Mr. Dubey, Ramesh Dubey, to please take on the platform.
Good evening, sir, and thank you for giving such a wonderful platform to say something about us, sir. Actually, I'm a second officer, NCB second officer. I'll talk about NCB second officer, sir. NCB officers mostly. So I would like to draw your attention to NCB second mate, that how much NCB second mate is being exploited these days. First of all, NCB second mate certificate is limited. We can work in coastal ships only up to few GRT, and ever we don't have job because many other secondaries go from company to company for employment after passing their exam. They are such companies, the honor companies, whose ship is not even seaworthy, offers us a job at a low salary, and because we don't have job, we join it. And if we sign off in an emergency, they consider it breach of contract and refuse to provide us sea service as well as salary. We we do not get to know our minimum wages set by union through collective bargaining. When we approach the company for employment, we are asked to work for less than AB salary. So why we would want to work as a secondment, sir? Our salaries should be fixed up to a certain amount, and the company should pay at least such amount, which will not break our morals, and we will be able to do good work on the ship. And I would like to add one more thing, sir. There are so many foreign charters willing to appoint NCB officers on the basis of performance of work. Despite their wish, they are unable to employ us because of so many limitations in our COC. Instead, they prefer to employ foreign nationals with very low professional qualifications. If we are given such relief, keeping in mind our COC limits, then we can work outside, even outside of India also. And today the problem of recruitment of NCB officers can also be solved, can also be sorted out, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dubey. I actually identify with most of your observations and views. Yes, limitations are there, but I'm looking forward to hearing from the panelists how we can address this. Moving on, may I ask Second Officer Chandan Yadav to please take on the platform and present his views. Mr. Chandan Yadav, you can unmute yourself, please.
Good evening to everybody. Honorable Chief Guest, Moderator, panelists, seniors, and fellow officers, juniors. I hope everyone is fit and fine during this COVID situation, and I would like to bring some points, my views on exams. Sir, this COC exams must be conducted on every month. So, due to COVID, we have so much backlog. Exams are not held in past 2 years. Very few times exams held. So, if it is possible to conduct the exams and orals every month, so it will be very helpful to us to clear this backlog and to clear our exams. And second point, as Captain Almeida has told regarding this sign-on, sign-off, where in this COVID situation,
Mr. Yadav, we have lost you.
in this COVID situation that we do. First, my last point, 14, very tough time for us to this COVID situation. So, and
Mr. Yadav, can you please repeat your last 3-4 sentences? We lost you in between. Can you just repeat what you said?
third one is, sir, with some priority.
You are not coming in
sir,
very clear.
Can you hear me, sir?
Now I can, yeah. Can you just repeat your last 3-4 observations? 3-4 sentences, sorry. I think there is a problem with your connection. It keeps coming and going.
Oh, sir,
Now it's okay. Now you continue, please.
yes, sir. Sir, regarding this vaccination drive, sir, I would like to bring a panelist attention on vaccination drive, sir. So all seafarers must get priority on the vaccination, so we can join the ships and if we get vaccination on the priority, sir. That's all for my side, sir. Thank you. Now,
Thank you, Mr. Yadav. Yes, I'm sure somebody will address your concerns. Moving on, may I ask Mr. Deepak Mishra, who's a sailing able seaman, to please come forward and present his views. Mr. Deepak Mishra.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all my seniors, and not probably there are no juniors here, but yeah, to all my seniors. I really appreciate the opportunity given to me by Forward Seamen Union India, by our General Secretary, so to get onto this platform and be able to put forth my views. So thanks a lot to each and every one. So yes, the point that I wish to put across, before I put across the point, I wish to reason out as why I'm specifically concentrating on this point is because I come from teaching background. Before joining the shipping industry, I have worked before as in tech TCS, which is Tata Consultancy Services, and Tech Mahindra as a trainer and coach for voice and accent and the process. So have obtained my degrees and certifications into the same perspective. So what I have come across over the course of sea time that I have, the thing that I've been pretty worried about is the method of teaching that is being followed from the ground zero, that is from the institutes and till the ships. So the method that's being used is called as shape teaching. That means, on a broader understanding is that you point out someone or you have some derogatory remarks or derogatory way of teaching, which creates, which is effective. It is not that it's not effective. It's been a part of the culture. It's been there since decades. However, this is mounting to a point that the most important fact, the performance of the seafarers, okay, a fellow seafarer as me, although I have been through the tremendous pressure, so I can handle it, having experience of that. So the method, okay, in which that we are dealing with is going to have it would be creating a big trouble for us in future, because if we look at the ratio with our competitors, which is Philippines, and we have Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. There are several countries. The one that we are, competing with is Philippines. Okay, so formally I've been to Philippines and I've been to US and Australia as well. The three major destinations wherein often people go to get their degrees. So what I observed there, the method they use for teaching that benefits them on a large scale. That is a very reason that they are rapidly growing compared to our Indian seafarers. If I talk about the growth aspect, there is a ratio of 2:10 and 0.5:10. So out of every 10,000, they have 2 seafarers and we have 0.5. Now it comes down to the route that, as I mentioned, a lot of seafarers, when they go on board, the method they come across of the teaching, of the same teaching, okay, they come across the situation wherein they give up. So they are not willing to go further, having traumatized by the situations that they have been through. Physical situation, it is very obvious that we work in an exceptionally challenging background, okay, as in the shipping industry. Very challenging background. However, the mental aspect, that is something which has to be taken care of by the teaching perspective. So yes, I would appreciate if this can be changed. If not, if I talk about long-term result, 10 years down the line, it is very obvious that very soon, as an alternative, a lot of the best results that a lot of good results that the shipping industry, the industry is all about profit and loss. If any shipping agency or an owner, if he's getting a crew with a cheaper price, okay, cheaper tag, obviously he would look to it. But the second thing that he look at, okay, is the quality of the crew. So Philippines, it is very obvious, have been the very least paid among the crews, and has been a very big competitor to us. So yes, I wish to request the panelists and everyone to look forward to formalize and create a ground rule, or there has to be a rule book or a law book for the ones who are appearing as to be becoming an instructor in the institutes, or even getting the ranks at the high seas. They should be very much trained, okay, to how to teach. Believe me, to be honest, I have, over the course of time, I would say last 4 years, I've been to expectedly 17 institutes, the Maritime Institutes, MTIs. I've been actively working with the unions, okay, and I have come across this conclusion that if this does not get changed in a very soon manner, it is going to be a big trouble for a lot of seafarers as for the employment perspective. Second, as a second point that I wish to raise, that also has been raised by my fellow seafarers. So that is about the wages. The wages part, I wish to request the panelists to look into the point of wages being marginalized, then wages being transparent. As in a current situation, if you take the wages point, you go to 10 companies, okay, there is no calibration. One will, to a Navy, one will offer, I'm not about just about tanker. They would give an excuse stating GRT, stating type of ship and type of tanker, points as that. But you talk about the wages, there has been big discrimination that has been happening with I would say, with most of the ranks, as Mr. Ramesh Dubey has pointed out. I really wish to highlight, because I wouldn't talk about just one organization. And as I mentioned, I come from teaching and the research background. So I often do the research before I say anything. So I've come across to the point, I've been to various number of companies, and I found out that there is no single scale book being followed by the companies. I specifically wish to highlight the organizations which are not under ITF. So I certainly understand we have the dignified authorities, that is Directorate General of Shipping, and we have the MMD. However, when these RPSLs, especially the ones which are not under ITF, they have been very much discriminating, okay, about the salary part for the various ranks. So I wish to very much raise the fact that it should be the RPSLs should be made down to come down to accountability, as in their accounts to be very much thoroughly checked, that what do they pay and whether it has gone down to the seamen, up to the seamen. So that accountability, okay, as in having a good accountability or having a track of the end-to-end transaction of money, okay, that is very much needed in the industry, as what I've come across. Yeah, that is what I conclude, and that is what my add up is to this subject.
Thank you, Mr. Mishra. I think that was very well presented, and both your points have not been discussed here. I can assure you that. And we have one of the finest teachers, I think a group of finest teachers present in this seminar today itself. And I would like to hear their comments on your first point. May I now request Mr. Rai and Captain Halbe to please take over and take this thing forward, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Captain Sanjay. Yes, the quality of inputs received from the sea staff has definitely been of a very high order, and I think the panelists are not going to have a very easy half an hour. Mr. Rai, I will ask one question so that you can take over for the next one, just to keep it nice and not bore the panelists and other participants. I'll direct the first question, and I'll follow the last in first out policy. So I will take on Deepak Mishra's question first, and that deals with the wages and the issue of variety of wages and non-transparent and the RPS agents or RPS companies. First thing, we very casually use the word RPS agent. Under the MLC, there is nothing called agent. It is recruitment and placement service. That's it. The moment we use an agent, it gives a tint to it. And we start imagining, he's a middleman. No, he's not. So let us get one thing very clear on that. Anyway, I will move on to the panelists and let them answer. After all, they are here for that. May I request Captain Rangnekar, since he has a large fleet, he has a large number of Indian seafarers on board, and importantly, he is the Chief Operating Officer of Fleet Management in India and the former chairman of MASA. So he has seen a lot of what Mr. Mishra you have just mentioned. So requesting Captain Rangnekar to say a few words about this. You are muted, sir.
First of all, good evening to everyone, and thanks for the opportunity. Deepak, I think you come out with probably a valid issue which you probably faced or your colleagues has faced regarding crew wages and disparity, or there not being a standardization, correct? Is that what you're trying to say, or this is what you said? As far as most of the companies are concerned, shipping companies, I'll not talk them as agents, because even the RPSL companies, they are representing some owners, or there are some ownership companies themselves. So they follow a CBA. I'm sure you know what is a CBA, and most of all the CBAs, they have a wage scale, which is the minimum wage scale wages required to be paid to every rank, and that is strictly followed. There is no chance that anybody can pay below it. But of course, this being a supply and demand industry, there are chances that somebody will get more than what is there in the CBA. And for example, the tanker market is more demanding. So the tanker wages are normally higher than the bulk carrier wages and so on. So if there is somebody who is not paying as per the CBA or below the CBA, then it is not acceptable. And I think there is a platform where you can raise this issue. It will be taken up. But as far as the standardization of wages is concerned, as I said, there is a CBA below that, nobody pays, but there will be a demand and supply. So what is paid on one type of vessel may be different on another type of vessel. For example, LNG crew will tend to get more than what a dry ship gets, but that is the demand of the trade. So is that what you're trying to say, or have I answered your question, or there is something more to it?
If I understand correctly, he did make a mention that the standard companies follow a CBA. He used the word ITF, which is generally the CBAs are negotiated with ITF affiliated unions. So he's used the word ITF. I think you mean a union, ITF affiliated union, because we generally don't negotiate with the ITF. We negotiate with the union. So that was one part. But Captain Rangnekar, but there is one other aspect also. With a variety of flags, each of the flags have their own accepted CBA. Norwegian has one, German has a, Greek has, Japanese has. And in all of those CBAs, the wages are a little bit here and there for the same rank. The German will have a different wage scale than the Japanese. Am I right?
Absolutely correct. So there will be a difference in NIS CBA and, for example, IBF, MUI CBAs, for example. But the difference is not very alarming. Maybe a few $100, just $50, $100 here and there. So the difference is not so much that it can become an issue. And as you rightly said, it is between the ship owners and the ITF affiliated unions to decide what is best. and it goes by that. For example, the Norwegian is a national flag, so it has its own wage scale as compared to the IBF scale. But as I said, the wages are not much different for the same rank given in the two, and it's never been a problem. I mean, we operate 18 different flags and various CBAs, but there has never been a problem issue on that, because from one flag to other flag, somebody is going, and from one CBA to other CBA moves. There is no issue I've heard on that.
Sir, just to add, before I hand over to Mr. Rai, I just did thumbs up to Captain Almeida. I was itching to ask him, are you the same Captain Almeida? But I didn't ask him that. Great to see you. Just one small thing I would like to add here with regard to the CBAs is there is a requirement of the Director General of Shipping that for every ship, the applicable CBA has to be uploaded into the DG's website, into the portal. And all the companies have to do that. Those, at least the ones that I know of, do it. And it's a requirement. So if the seafarer thinks he's shortchanged, he has a very fair ground of complaint. He can complain.
Yeah, sorry, you continue.
Yeah, he can complain. And I know that the DG takes it up. I know that because there was an incident where they actually asked us what we have, what was the CBA that we have as associations we had signed with the union, because that is the mother CBA, sort of the mother CBA. Sorry, Captain Rangnicker, please go ahead and we can hand over to Mr. Rai.
What you said is valid. And in addition, the appointment, or what you call as the ACA nowadays, mentions which CBA is applicable to that ship and to the seafarer. And during the audits, these audits are conducted once a year, annual audits. Randomly, it is definitely checked that the CBA is correctly mentioned and the wages paid to the seafarer in various ranks matches what is there in the CBA. So that is also randomly checked. And as I said, I have not heard of any issue there. But if Mr. Deepak has come out with the issue or his colleagues, you can raise it up. And I can assure you the administration and the various bodies would like to address it and see that this discrepancy, if any, is removed. So there is a fair play on it.
Mr. Deepak,
over to Mr. Rai.
No, Mr. Deepak, did you imply that the wages internationally should be uniform in various countries? No. Was that one of your observations?
Right, I understand, Captain Rai and Randikar. What you said, I'm very much aware of the point that according to the ship type, according to the nationality, according to the flags of conveyance, what we come across, the wages differ. Okay, so it's I certainly understood that point. I had a good study about that. What my point was, okay, let's say I have a vessel of 30,000 GRT. Okay, a vessel of 30,000 GRT, and I have a flag of Panama. Okay, and I do know that as per the CBA, this is expectedly what I'm going to get. But what I'm trying to say over here, the industry is not calibrated. Not all of us know what's the exact amount of salary that you will get as on your rank and as according to your flag. Believe me, there is no common book that I have found in the market which could give me a proper understanding that according to the flag, which rank, which COC. I'm talking about the complex that we are facing right now. So it is a funnel philosophy. It starts from the top. Okay, it should have the type of COC, it should have the type of vessel, it should have the GRT aspect, then it should have the flag, and then it should boils down to the point that according to your CBA, what you should get. Believe me, here, as in a matter of panelists, as in a matter of the seafarers, our fellow seafarers, what we have, the ones who are sailing. If you ask them right now, I can certainly say there is no calibration. Besides, I do understand you did answer the question, but this was a little out of the cloud, I would say, the answer. But I agree that you highlighted and you did, gave me the point or the answer that is generally categorized by the organization. However, apart from this as well, I have one more point that I personally wish to put across apart from this specific subject, since I have good enough answer about this, that I have personally come across. Okay. This is I'm someone who's been jitterish. I'm someone who's been always researching, doing things, finding out what is a common problem that all of us as a seafarer face. One thing that I personally have come across, okay, is lot of us not having an understanding of which tab, what to do, where to go, what to do exactly on Master Checker. Personally, as on, I'm not just specifically talking about my rank as well. I really appreciate the effort that has been put by the Directorate General of Shipping and everyone from the Department of IT or any department who has contributed even a single ounce of it to building that Master Checker and making it equal for everyone to know which vessel they are sailing, having a track of where they are going, from which agency they are going. But my concern that I wish to raise is a lot of us, I would say, if I go ahead and meet 10 seafarers, only 3 or 2 will know exactly which tab, where to do. A lot of us don't know how to raise a grievance. A lot of us don't know where exactly is the tab they will upload their documents to apply for the COC or not that I would say to a COC, I haven't gone that far, but a COP or a watchkeeping. And I wish and I request that before anyone gets into the sea, okay, let's say they have a course of GP rating, they have BSc Nautical Science, they have the DNS, any course, irrespective of any course they do, they should be very much educated about the Master Checker. They should be very much trained about what they should get stamped as on their CTZ, the date of joining, the sign off, what is Form 3, what all things are, they should be aware of. When I talk about the rights of financial aspect, which is their salary, is not just everything. But believe me, the most important thing is the right of education. And right of education is not just about paying money and getting done with the course, but also to knowing how you will use that certificate, where and how exactly you'll get to know on your Master Checker. I request the departments to have a look into this.
You have raised a valid point, but it will take probably us rest of the evening to discuss that, because there are quite a few issues with that. And we are well aware of the challenges. And let me also very bluntly state that let's not blame the department for everything. We know some things that have gone beyond them also. So there are no saints in all of this. So let me be clear. Even the users have not been saints. I will also share with you that. We know names of people also. So let's not go that route. Please do call me. I will explain to you some of the points. I know the answers. Maybe some of them will answer to you separately. It will go on a very long time. That's the reason. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your understanding, Deepak. Mr. Rai, over to you, sir.
No, thank you. But points of Mr. Deepak are well noted. He has some issues, but as Captain Halbayu said, we know the answers and limitations of all of that, so that we can probably take up separately as well. Now, without taking more time, I will go back to start from the top. Captain Almeida raised a very valid point, but we all are fully aware, knowing the reasons about this crew changes and delays in signing off, etc. This topic has been discussed at various platforms, including at the central cabinet level, and much has been done. And actually, I would like to compliment Indian administration for taking some very prompt measures. And thanks again to organizations, the unions, MASA and FOSMA and all that, who started those services, bubble aircrafts and all that. So I will now like to invite actually Mr. Amar Singh Thakur and representative of MASA and FOSMA here. As it turns out, Captain Halbe, you yourself are from MASA. So will you enlighten that what efforts have been made? And problem has more or less been resolved, I would say, apart from the restrictions which have been imposed by the different countries who do not even today allow. And there also, I am aware that our Minister of External Affairs and Minister of Shipping are in dialogues with those countries that the seafarers should be allowed. Again, a word I'm sure all of us know that seafarers have already been assigned as key workers. But again, there is some places a distinction has been made between key workers and frontline workers. So that bridge also has to be reduced. The key workers and frontline workers should be, or seafarers should be treated as frontline. हालवे साहब आप बताएंगे ये जो अपने एयरक्राफ्ट सर्विस
सर मुझे काम सवाल पूछने का दिया गया है, आज जवाब देने का नहीं दिया गया.
You were the leader.
Sir, there are two of the people. Yes, sir. there are two people here, Captain Rangnekar, on whose watch actually all of that happened. And I think he's most suited to answer. Even Mr. Deepu is there. I can see him. I also see, who else? Off the top of my head, I can see these two gentlemen. They know exactly what happened. Captain Naik is there as well from Bosma. He knows. They were all involved in it. They were users as well.
Let Mr. Deepu come.
Good evening to all. First of all, thanks to the organizers for inviting me here. Splendid conversation that is going on. I did hear all these participants, but so first of all, I would like to thank all the seafarers for their exemplary service, over the last many months when these crew changes were hampered and many of them had to extend themselves on board. Friends, I must say that you did keep the propellers turning. You kept the world cargo moving. Hats off to all of you for your dedication. I'm sure this has not got unnoticed. So great job that was done. Now coming to this specific question about these charter flights, I must say this is a good example of collaboration. It is, as they say, necessity always teaches you. So when the shipping companies realize that the world is shut and you reach a point when you are against the wall, then something needs to be done. And I'm really, grateful that, wise minds got together and there was collaboration between various organizations, unions, DGS, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Ministry of External Affairs, initially Dubai we could have a separate session on this. It's a very long drawn process, but what I can tell you is from the owner's side, there was no stone left unturned, whether it was costs, manning costs were all shifted aside. The only thought was to get our seafarers who are tired on board home. This was the sole agenda on everyone's mind. And there was such great brotherhood where all of these people got together. I must also add, it would not have been possible for just seafarers to do it. We must thank the Directorate General of Shipping and all these other departments that I mentioned. And of course, for MASA, I'm part of MASA as well. It was on Captain Rangnekar's watch. So I would let him also dwell on this. But as I said, we can go on an hour and it would still be less because there were so many challenges that had to come. And I must tell the seafarers that while you guys were stuck on board, trust me, all the staff in the offices were equally, working midnight hours to try and see how to manage things. Each crew change was a micromanagement, so to say. But Prashant sir, you want to say something further on this?
You are very right. It was a Herculean efforts and a cooperation which was amplified by various organizations and unions, etc. is really exemplary. It is actually a study to be done that how united people or in unity when we all work towards a goal, we can achieve it. So Captain Prashant Rangnekar, will you like to add something?
Yes, Mr. Deepu, I think you rightly said when you thank the seafarers, I think they were the torchbearers in last year's struggle. Last year when the main challenge was the airline stopped, as everybody knows. And then we were lost how to do the crew changes. We wanted to get everybody back. But eventually, collectively, we found the answer in chartering. We're used to chartering the ships, but we got into chartering the flights now. And we became actually quite good at it. So then we found a way out to the very difficult question by chartering flights. FOSMA, MASA got together, many others. More than 250 flights were chartered to get the seafarers in and out. So having done that, this year, during the second wave, the Almighty changed the question paper because he knew we had the answer for the last question. So the question paper changed. Now the new question paper is You have the flights operating, but the seafarers are not accepted in many countries. Now, this was something out of the syllabus, even for us. We were not prepared for it. So still, now we are struggling. Many countries don't allow crew changes. Many countries don't allow Indians to come in or go. You all know what it is. Eastern sector is most badly affected. In fact, Korea and Japan is the only one which is allowing. We are still struggling. We are working around that. We have approached the administration to talk to the governments, and we are working on a bubble flight if that is acceptable, sending a vaccinated crew. So it is very important. I'll use this opportunity to tell everyone that please get yourself fully vaccinated. And that is one of the key points we are raising. We are giving hopes that our crew, Indian crew, will be fully vaccinated and they will go in a bubble, and please accept them. So even the administration is working with the various governments to accept that. We will have dedicated hotels there. So we're working around various things. Even the ship owners are with us on that. They also want to find a way out. So, but it is a different kind of a challenge because consulates are closed and you cannot travel to a few countries. But I think given time, as the vaccination rate goes up, Indians will get accepted, and more things are opening up now, as we see. Even Sri Lanka is now accepting Indians to come with certain restrictions. So I think it will get better. This challenge is difficult, but I think there will be a way out of it. I'm trying to keep it short, but if there is something specific, I can answer it.
Nonetheless,
Requesting
all the issues
requesting Arun Kumar Singh to mute his mic, please.
I was saying that despite all the hurdles, problems, I think as India is concerned, signing up, really very good efforts were made, and it did bring out some very positive results. And I hope the efforts will continue. With that, I have one more question of Captain Almeida about opening some more hubs for the crew changes. I'm sure Government of India is looking into this, and most of the port authorities have been requested to facilitate that. When vessels arrive, crew change be made to ease up. And as a matter of fact, many ports, at least in India, I know, even to come in just for crew change. Admirable initiative by the port. So, Captain Halbe, would you like to add anything to supplement that what I said?
No, you have covered most of it, sir. No question about that. However, one question, sir, of Captain Almeida, he had raised more than one, actually two, and that is the BIMCO crew change clause and the infectious diseases clause in the commercial operation of the vessel. Despite those clauses being promulgated or being advocated by BIMCO, the commercial interests are not enamored by those clauses, and that's his complaint, that the dollar rules finally. So how do we try to overcome that? Because the charterers apparently are not exactly looking forward to putting their, as the British say, they have deep pockets but short hands. So how do we try to overcome that? Captain Naik, would you like to? I know it's not an easy question. It's a very difficult one, but a very valid one from Captain Almeida. Captain Naik, we all have signed this great Neptune Declaration, and there are 300 organizations which have signed it. But between you and me, we know what has happened with it.
Absolutely, Captain Halbe. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Once again, seafarers were the heroes of last year, and they continue to be the heroes of this year too in this pandemic. Coming to the question about these clauses of BIMCO, well, it's a utopian concept which is very difficult to follow in practice. As you know, chartering, the demands for cargo, the demands for freight, they are all 180 degrees apart. So what happens is, even though crew change and seafarers are recognized as key workers, they are not given their due as far as crew change is concerned all over the world. So in fact, to the contrary, I have been seeing some very big oil major companies, they are not even allowing crew change during their charter. It can be a voyage charter, it can be a time charter. So what are we considering about these BIMCO clauses being incorporated in charter party agreements? When the charter parties themselves, the big charterers themselves, they are not supporting crew change. We have had very, very difficult times convincing charterers of the caliber of very major oil majors that look, our ships crew are fatigued. They are not going to continue further. You may have accidents, you may have incidents on board. Forget about all the ISM checklists, etc., what Captain Almeida was talking about, or what Abhay Pandey was talking about. So this is a major factor which the charterers do not accept. So what answer to this, Captain Halve, is we must have a very strong safety culture in the company. And this safety HSAC department should sit together with the chartering department. Like I belong to an ownership company. So we have to get these two factors together, the safety department, HSAC department, and the chartering department. They should see eye to eye, and the owner should be convinced to take over a particular charter or not, unless and until the crew change clause or the crew change facility is proper in this particular charter. This is the only way to do it. There is not going to be an easy solution for all the owners to come under one umbrella. BIMCO has done something good. It is a utopian concept, but very difficult to follow in practice. That's my take on this.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. There was a question or issue raised by
Captain
yes,
Halve, can I come in for a minute? Yeah.
Oh, okay. There you are. You are without a video. So I
One second. I'm coming on video as well. Yeah. There are two questions which were answered, but I think I have a little bit more information because I'm in part of that organization committee, so I can throw some more light on it. One is regarding converting India into crew change hub. Now, this matter has already been taken by DG to the Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways. What we are trying to replicate is what airline is doing. It's a concept called MRO, Maintenance, Repair and Operation. So the shipping version of that is that we have also added the crew change to MRO. And the original initial plan is that we should have 2 centers on the west coast of India, that is most likely Mumbai and Cochin, and one on the east coast, and then we can develop further. So there's a positive development in that direction, which also includes crew change, supply for spares and services, etc., all outside the port limit. So this has been, the discussion has been there on it, and the proposal has moved on. The second part was regarding the crew change BIMCO clause. Now, as a lawyer, I would like to just throw a little light on it, that this is about the reasonable deviation. Now, all the contracts are all under mostly Hague-Visby rules. And under Hague-Visby rule, what they say is that you can deviate your vessel for saving lives or for reasonable deviation. So all this BIMCO clause has done is that if a ship owner now has a liberty to call a port, all at his own expense, nobody's going to finance, at his own expense, call a port outside the charter party. And that call will not be termed as a breach of contract and will be qualified as a reasonable deviation under Hague-Visby rule. So this is the intent of that, to preventing owners paying on default, breaching the charter party. To that extent, that clause has been included. But otherwise, all expenses, and then as you again said, as you said rightly, it's a dollar call for the ship owners also to take. So as far as charters are concerned, they said, we have given you that liberty, so you will not be at breach of the contract. So please go ahead. So that's a legal part of that clause which is there in BIMCO. Thank you.
Captain Rakesh, what I believe earlier, some Indian ports had put some restrictions of signing of crew in their ports. But after some discussion, negotiation, I think now all ports are allowing signing off if vessel wants to do that.
Yes, Raisa, I mean, the pandemic hit us like a tsunami, and no one knew exactly what to do. So all the reactions, actions, and standard operating procedures from everyone were, a reaction to the pandemic. And there were a lot of wheels within wheels. DG will issue an instruction. The port will have its own added instruction. Then the state government will play a very important role. I mean, the Goa government did not follow the instructions issued by DG. They said, no, we want to have our own added instruction for the health and safety of their own people in the state. So these were the issues, but as you rightly said, they were all got resolved now. We are afraid standardization now as far as crew changes requirement is concerned. And yes, I do say that barring the ports where we do not have immigration checkposts, there are many ports we do not have immigration checkposts like Dhamra or all. Otherwise, it's pretty standard. And I think it's eased down a bit. It's become easier to do the changes. And expenses also have gone down a bit because quarantine requirements have also reduced. So I think, yes, we have learned our lessons and have streamlined our procedures as far as Indian ports are concerned. Thank you.
Yeah, Rakesh, and I will request Halbe Sahab that before we move on, we have two senior representatives from the unions, Mr. Amar Singh Thakur and Mr. Abdul Ghani Sarang. I would like to request them if they would like to comment anything about crew issues related to the signing on, signing off, and if they have any further opinion. Mr. Amar Singh Thakur, you take up first.
Yeah. First of all, let me thank to Gagan Pandey. It's very interesting. The shore connect to sea, sea connect to shore. And our seafarers, they are highlighting the problem. So, first of all, I will tell you that crew change, no industry or no company want that our seafarers should be remain on board ship. They must be signed off in time. They must go home. And every effort has been made by industry, by government, by DG Shipping, by Shipping Ministry. And I can say in Indian ports, most of the things are now sorted out and it is allowed to change the crew in Indian ports. We have written to Ministry of Shipping and they have sent us the letter also. That because previously we found that in Mangalore port and Paradip port and some other port, there were issues for the COVID that they were not allowing the seafarer to get down and get inside. So we told that Ministry that there are the guidelines for the DG Shipping, they are not accepting that. So now they have accepted that, they are following the guidelines. So I don't know this thing, it should be a problem for the crew change. Now next thing, the problem is in the foreign ports. Still the challenges are there. Still industry is facing problem, unions also facing problem. There are a lot of issues. We are taken to ITF, we are taken to others, the industry also, we are taken to ministry also. You create a hub like Singapore, in Asian at Asia hub, like Singapore, like Dubai or Sri Lanka. So our people can go from there to this. So let's see, we are already approached the ministry and they are going to create these hubs very soon. So still the things are moving and the talks are going on. So I don't think so. Since the challenges are there, I can say, because COVID is still there. You are going to wait a little more. People may say something else, but we have to bear with that. And I must salute our seafarers. They are still having the faith on the industry and union. They are doing our best. And I must say that our seafarers, you must see a company. You must see the company also. They don't want to keep you on board ship unnecessarily. So at least you must give them time. 3 month, 4 month contract. You say, okay, I have to sign off. In case any emergency, they will do anything. But there is something you have to be also behave with the company. If it is a contract is extended for 2 months or something, that is enough. So you are getting wages there, no? The person who is not at home, he has not got job, he is not joining the ship. So he should be in problem. But you are more safer in onboard ship than the shore.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Abdul Ghani Sarang, would you like to add something to what Mr. Thakur said?
थैंक यू मगर ठाकुर साहब ने कुछ बचाया नहीं बोलने के लिए मुझे मगर मैं एक ऐड कर दूं कि फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल जितने भी फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल great passion of the seafarers, they are continuing on board despite many challenges, but one thing is for sure and all seafarers should appreciate and acknowledge that everybody, that is the unions, the companies, the governments, do not want the seafarers to have extended contracts. They want them to come back soon. This is a commitment from all quarters as far as our Indian maritime fraternity is concerned. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि जानबूझ के आप लोगों को इन्हें क्रू चेंज डिले कर रहे हैं. That is not the case. And have in the first, if you recollect, in the first time for COVID जब ये आया, India led as an example and continue to lead as an example of having our क्रू चेंजेस बाय फ्लाइट, चार्टर्ड फ्लाइट करके. किसी और कंट्री ने किया नहीं जितना इंडिया ने किया. बट सेकंड फेज में, सेकंड टाइम में जो बैन हुआ है बाय द एक्सटर्नल फोर्सेस, जो अपना जो दूसरी कंट्रीज के जो बैन के वजह से बड़ी दिक्कत आ रही है. It is not that the companies or the we don't want the seafarers to come down. It is because of this technicality. जहाँ देखो उतरने में मुश्किल, crew change चढ़ाने में मुश्किल. But having said that, we are working very closely with the government. In fact, मैंने तो मंडाविया साहब अभी हेल्थ मिनिस्टर बने. मैंने बोला आप हेल्थ मिनिस्टर बन के आप एक फतवा जाहिर करो ना. When you are shipping minister, we were going to the Ministry of Health for giving the seafarers priority in vaccination. As Minister of Health, he himself can issue a fatwa कि भाई दे दो सब seafarers को दे दो priority में vaccination. जो हमारे अंदर में वो भी हम नहीं कर सकते. वो we are still not close to that. But we are working very closely, jointly to have a hub, as Thakur Sahib has mentioned, particularly in Singapore and UAE. Talks are there going on at the highest level, and we are very sanguine that it will come through positively. And I appreciate this particular platform क्योंकि ये seafarers की जो आप बीती है, particularly on the paperwork, और जो last उसमें भी paperwork के बारे में बताया, lot of extensive paperwork and those issue mental well-being. I'm sure that this will take off, with seminars like this, interaction, this will definitely, there will be more interaction and some way out positively. Thank you so much.
Ghani Sahab, thank you so much. There are some questions still pending, like this paperwork issue or increased problem up last time also. But I think I will wait. It may come out in the second segment also. So we'll like and answer that together. So now we'll move to the second segment. And can I invite our fourth engineer?
Let's hand over to Captain Maini. He will conduct that part.
Sorry, sir. Sorry. Captain Maini, please take over. Sanjay.
Yes, I'm just putting on the video. Yes, actually, Mr. Rai could have easily done that as well. Okay, we move on to the next set of sailing staff who are with us and been patiently listening to their counterparts. May I invite now Miss Riya Campbell. She is a sailing fourth engineer and is with us here today. In fact, I saw that she was one of the first entrants to the event. Riya, can you please take over and present your views?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. I am Riya Campbell. I have recently cleared my MEO Class 4 exams. I hope everyone is safe at their home. I would first of all like to extend my gratitude for having me here. And also, this is a very nice initiative by Maritime Destination and Mr. Pandey to narrow the gap between the shore and the sea. Not taking much time, I would like to mention few of my concerns and my fellow seafarer concerns. First of all, we all know we have been seeing increased number of women in the network. So as the number of women increases in the maritime industry, we know there are many concerns, but I would like to put this a very genuine one, which is I have always had this, and I think many of my juniors and seniors would also have this concern, which is how to dispose of sanitary waste. As I was starting off, I also had the same question, and I switched from pads and tampons to menstrual cups, which are reusable and produce zero waste. But there are still women and young girls who are joining or who are about to join who are unaware of it and are not comfortable with using a menstrual cup. We all know that incinerators on board are operated as per the ship's schedule, and it's very unhygienic to store sanitary waste on board ship. So I would really like if someone or something happens around this topic as well, because it is one of the major concerns which women seafarers face on board ship and are not, they don't feel free to talk about it as well. My second concern will be I myself had attended recently 5 to 6 modular as well as additional STCW courses, which were online. But the institutes are still charging the fees which were equal or higher than what it used to be when the courses used to be offline. We all know that during the online courses, we need to keep our videos on for the attendance purpose, which takes up a lot of internet, and good internet is obviously very expensive. So the overall expense of the student increases, and the fees, I think, from my perspective, should be reduced, because earlier, when the courses used to be offline, the institutes used to provide services like food, meals, and booklets, the offline booklets, the hard copy of the booklets. But now the booklets are also mailed us through the email IDs, and I think this has cut a deep pocket for the cadets who don't earn much during their cadetship. So that would be my second concern. And thirdly, this is the concern regarding, again, the women seafarers. That is, most of the women seafarers leave or quit sailing because of pregnancy or family planning. So I would like you guys to put some light on maternity leave or sailing of women seafarers after having a child. Thank you.
Thank you, Riya. I think they are very relevant questions, and thank you for putting them so clearly to us. And I'm sure our panelists will respond to them.
Yeah, we will take.
And thank you so much, Riya, once again, for your time. May I now invite Asim Rastogi? He's our sailing third engineer, but I don't seem to have him here. Are you here, Asim? I don't think he's been able to join us. I know that he's undergoing some class, or so maybe he'll join us later and he can present his views then. In the meantime, our sailing second engineer, Mr. Shalab Agarwal, can you please take these things forward now?
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak today. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, very much.
Okay, sir. So the thing is, like, I personally believe that already everything has already been talked about. I was waiting for like about an hour and a half to talk about my topics. Firstly, I agree with Riya that she talked about reducing the fees for all the courses that we have to undergo before going to the ship, and we have to get them revalidated again and again, because this certainly is a valid point, and I wanted to talk about this as well. Secondly, Second Officer Yadav talked about conducting the examinations every month. This is one of my major concerns that I want to talk about today, like specifically because I'm appearing for my MEO class 1 examinations right now, and there has to be a gap. You cannot appear every month for the MEO grade examinations. So I personally feel that MEO grade examination should be allowed to be, the seafarers, the candidates, they should be allowed to appear for MEO grade examinations every month so that they do not waste a month. I mean, everything is fresh in their minds and they want to do it, and they finally appear for the exam and they clear it. Because now everything is online. I mean, DG Shipping has already issued a circular on 3rd of May that from now on, the oral examinations would be conducted online. So why can't we have these oral examinations every single month so that we do not waste a month, we appear and we clear our examinations? This is one. Secondly, a lot of my batchmates, a lot of my fellow mates, they were also focusing on one important thing about the conduct of written examinations for class 1 and the assessment as well. Now our DG Shipping, our current DG Shipping, he has taken a lot of initiative to turn things from offline mode to online mode. As of now, like when I appeared for my class 2 examination, second engineer examination back in 2017, we did not have all of that. We used to go to the bank to get the challan done and then submit our fees and then appear for the examination, stay in the line whole day and then get our numbers there. But now the things have become online. The assessment should be done online. We should be allowed to appear anywhere all across India, and there should be a uniformity in the syllabus about the oral examinations as well. It is not specific as of now. Like the surveyors in Mumbai, they would be asking a different set of questions which are entirely different from what we are asked in Calcutta or in Kochi or Chennai for that matter. Like we do have a lot of MMDs in India, but not every MMD is conducting exams in India. All of the MMD should conduct exams in India. We should not have a gap. We should be allowed to appear every month. These are some of my major concerns. Secondly, we have been talking about seafarers' mental health being. Like we all have faced that. Like we have been on board. I was on board for about 10 months because I did not sign off. And Captain Almeida has already talked about signing off seafarers, and everyone is talking about it. I was on board for about 10 months and it becomes physically exhausting, emotionally exhausting, because you want to get back home. So even I was consulting ISWAN once to help me out with this problem, to help me get out of the solution. So there's one more thing that we have in India. It's like MEO grade examinations. When the result is declared online, it says that you have failed. I personally believe that this word fail should be replaced with the word reappear. It is very disappointing. It is very, very depressing at times to look at the word fail, that too in red, that you have to appear again. So it should rather be replaced with the word reappear. Third thing that I want to talk about is, like I have seen on board, not specifically I would talk about my company, but my fellow mates have asked me to address this issue with you, that the masters on board are very reluctant to send the seafarers for the medical treatment on shore. I don't understand what is the problem. I think it is the responsibility to address the medical issues that we face. We do courses, but we are not certified doctors. So if there is something that we can do something about it, then it should be addressed. I'm sorry. I think there was some disturbance. So this is something that the master is supposed to do. I mean, I feel that they do not want to do it because there would be a lot of communication between the company, between them, and there would be a lot of paperwork involved as well. So I feel that the master should not be reluctant to send the seafarers for the medical treatment or the diagnosis of the problem that seafarers face on board. Because we are the backbone of the ship. We are the backbone of this industry. If something happens to it, there is no substitute. I mean, I cannot do the work of a third engineer. I would be overloaded. I would be overpressurized, right? So this is one thing that I want to focus on. Last, one of my friends, he also talked about it, that nowadays, because all the ships have internet, all the ships have running WhatsApps, all the ships have running telegrams. So the superintendents, they basically ask the second engineers to text their problems or about the machinery problems on WhatsApp, like the vessel managers. I mean, this is something completely out of the proportion. This is something completely under the table. You're supposed to make the records official. You're supposed to send everything officially so that we do not get out of it later. So this WhatsApp culture about sending the problems, about sending the machinery pictures, about sending what is going wrong with the machinery through WhatsApp is not acceptable. This is all I want to say, sir. And I would mute myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. Yes, some very valid points there, and I'm sure it will be addressed very shortly. May I now request, and thank you for your patience. I know it takes a while for the seminar to get your turn, but that's how it is, because we would like to hear from everyone.
Sorry to
may I
interrupt.
now request another person who's been waiting very patiently, Chief Engineer Shankar Subramaniam, to please present his views now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for having me on board. First of all, as the secretary engineer was mentioning, that he had spent 10 months and it was difficult for him on board. Same situation with me, and I really appreciate the efforts put by everybody on board ashore, including the companies and the team to get people ashore last year. So thank you for that. And for me to start with, I have a few points which I would update from here. Somebody was mentioning about the mental health. So I would say, taking this point right from the junior level point of view, the selection point of view for the candidates who are coming in to the shipping industry. So the time I've been in the industry for almost 3 decades right now. So the type of uh, the mentality in which we come in and join the shipping, and the type of mentality when the juniors right now we are seeing in, there's a lot of difference. People are, I'm not saying they're wrong, but the way they're educated into what is expected from the shipping industry itself is somewhere there's a flaw. We should address this at the initial stages where the shipping training institutes are concerned. I mean, they should know what exactly what you face in the shipping industry. So there we see like a lot of people are committing. I think in the last few, maybe 5, 6 years, we have seen a lot of suicides and things in a negative way. Like, people have taken extreme loans and they're not able to pay, and the aspect of the financial aspect of it. So this one, they should be well addressed at the initial stages, so people will know what to expect. Coming to that point, like, when he comes on board and he's sailing for about, say, 9 months or 18 months on as a deck cadet or engine side, and then he goes for the exams, the basic time taken for him to complete his exams and then come back out as a fourth engineer or a third mate, there's a gap. And they sometimes goes to 2 years, 3 years, and he's totally out of touch. And then by this time, the person is already at the age of like 26, 27 when he is coming as a junior engineer or even as a third mate. So this actually affects his earning capacity, or it was not there before, and he's mentally set up to handle the situation. Now he is in the pressure because financially, and as well as what you call from the social point of view also. So there are aspects which are affecting him. So his performance isn't as his or hers, sorry for saying. So it should be taken into consideration. And now coming to the second next point, which I wanted to address, is the cross training between the industry, like from LNG to tankers to container ships to offshore to bulk carriers. Compared in Indian situation, like if I want to join some other branch, say I'm a tanker hand, I'm an LNG hand or something, it's easy. But the reverse is not easy. And even the companies which are who are handling all these ships, they do not really appreciate the persons to switch from the other sister, like, field to this field. There's a lot of training involved, but unless like you give us training, we will not, like in a given option, you will not have a situation where you'll be in a shortage. As like you see, like a person coming from the bulk carrier background, if he wants to switch to a tanker, at least some training aspect has to be shared upon. So there is a little bit of a cost which is involved to the company, but if you see as a long-term investment, it's an asset for you, because you have a very good person who has been trained to handle the different ship. But this is somehow lacking in Indian companies compared to a foreign or an oil major or a situation. And also our certification is little tricky compared to other countries. Other countries do allow people to switch between different type of ships, where in India, it's, or rather in Commonwealth, it's not similar. So if we have some familiarity, like, if it's a possibility, it'll be better. This is what I wanted to address, and I think I'll leave it to the panel to decide and discuss about this situation. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Subramaniam. I think that was very well put. And now I will hand over back to the moderators to take this thing forward and seek the views of the panelists on the various questions that have been put or the suggestions that have been made. Over to you, Captain Halbe and Mr. Rai.
Yeah, thank you, Sanjay. I'm very happy some very relevant and important issues have been raised. And first and foremost, I must say, Ms. Riya Campbell has raised some very valid points. And fortunately, today we have a lady panelist among us today. So I will invite Mrs. Ishita Chattopadhyay, who apart from being a business management, is clinical psychology postgraduate and a health management. So madam, I think those questions which you read will be very appropriate if you can take them. Ms. Ishita, please.
Yeah, I'd like a moment to just introduce myself since I'm fairly new in the Indian shipping diaspora, having, you definitely called out on my past experiences in international development and health, where I have worked with ILO and the Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Ishita, now we can. We lost you in between. Now it's
I'm
perfect.
sorry, I just got a call. No, I was saying that, firstly, it's very nice to be here. I am also second generation in the line of the shipping business, which was started by my father. I'm representing Confident Shipping today. We've manned and managed over 285 vessels. I'm also additional director at POSMA. So having said those many things, I'd like to jump right into Ms. Riya's topic. She addressed three main issues around women. One is around the sanitary waste. And she talked about pregnancy and issues and reasons why women quit and what can be done around that. And of course, the issue around online courses, if the pricing can be reduced, I think that can be addressed by the other panelists. But where it concerns pregnancy, of course, one needs to go by, and this is something that we need to check as a fraternity by the stipulations by, like the FOC, or if the ITF has set any rule forward. Or perhaps one can go back to the ILO standards. Typically, repatriation is advisable in the latter stages, and this can be decided on a case-by-case basis based on how other industries are operating. Since, of course, shipping is labor-intensive, one needs to review and see. And what rejoining facilities or can be provided to these women. So as a woman in the shipping business, I think I would definitely like to take it up with the Indian authorities here in India regarding the pregnancy issue, especially with similarly with regards to menstrual health and hygiene. This is something that nowadays there are biodegradable sanitary napkins, so we can probably and possibly promote that as an option, Ms. Riya. And we can look at other options and suggestions which you may have, and we could come together and discuss that. And I think I would like to talk on those 2 points. Also, with regards to the previous panelists, I do want to highlight that the suggestion regarding the COC exams being conducted on a monthly basis is actually a good suggestion. We've just got a DG extension again till December 31st, but I think these are some good suggestions. Yes.
You'll have to give me 2 minutes.
Hello? Okay. I'll stop right there, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Ishita. Points well taken. I think there are a lot of ladies group and we have a lot of lady officers on board. I think there is a organization which is basically only for the women, and they are working into it. Proposals have been given to the Indian administration also. But points are well taken of what Kiara had raised, and I'm sure in soon we'll answer. One thing what we learned is this biodegradable menstruation protections, etc. That point is well noted, and I'm sure the sailing movement will take note of that. So that's one question which Isha raised, Kiara raised, and Captain Halbe, will you like to take next questions?
Thank you, Mr. Rai. The two of the panelists, two of the seafarers raised the issue about fees being charged by the institutes. Today, though MASA and FOSMA, both of us run institutes, but I would prefer if I saw Captain C.L. Dubey, he operates one institute, and he's a principal and director of his own institute. Maybe Captain Dubey, can you just briefly and quickly answer that part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I be heard?
Loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay. Regarding this fees issue, what I can see that since it is online, many institutes have tried to reduce their fees, but many maintained whatever they had, and they found that they're not getting candidates. They're going to the institutes where the fees has been very low, very much reduced. So naturally, then they had to reduce the fees. For a particular course, I could see that the fees is, one institute is charging 70,000, other is charging only 20,000. But then you can see what kind of quality education they're going to give by this way, which candidates are not able to understand. They just join, and then when they go for examination, they find it very difficult to pass, because for competency courses, it is a real study which they have to do. They have to be trained and experienced teachers who have to teach. So what I mean to say that it is a, market forces. People who are charging more or charging high, they will reduce. They will come to, but they cannot reduce lower than a minimum amount. Otherwise, they can't run it, because they have to pay to the faculties and everybody. So that is what is my take on this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. The one issue that was raised by the second engineer Shalab was about referring to the doctor for sea staff, that is especially seafarers on board. Now this, frankly, we do hear, the questions that have been raised today with the work that, say, myself, Mr. Rai, and I see Mahesh Yadav also on the screen, I saw, we get to hear somebody has told us about this. Okay, so they are not as a surprise. But this particular one did catch me unawares, that people are not allowed to see the doctor. Does anybody know the answer to that one? Because I am at a loss for words. I mean, if a guy needs medical attention, he gets it. Simple. So, yeah, Captain Naik.
Yeah, thank you. Captain Halbe, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to answer this question. I think whole thing stems from the problem of the erosion of the master's authority on board. And again, I go back to the safety culture, which what prevails as a safety culture. The master's authority on board started eroding about 25 years ago or 30 years ago. And thereafter, the master has not been able to exert his authority properly in a safe manner. Similar question was addressed by Mr. Abhay Pandey. It was not about medical, but it was. Sorry?
Can you, Sunil, can you please mute your phone, Sunil, please?
Chief Officer Abhay Pandey had also asked about paperwork and things like that. So all this stems from the master's authority. So if the master and the safety department of a company, they can work hand in hand, this type of a situation will not arise.
Is it possible to mute
the host can do it.
A simple thing on board, like wearing of uniforms. Wearing of uniforms has become a very, very old practice now. Why? Again, it is due to the pressures, commercial pressures, and the master's authority getting eroded. Had you heard of anybody 25 years ago, anybody who's medically unfit or he needs doctor's attention? Even the MLC says that. Even all your scriptures, whichever is there dealing with shipping, they say that. Today this is happening. It means that the master authority eroded and he just listens to what the superintendents in the company are telling him. So this kind of a situation is completely untenable and it will lead to disasters sooner or later. So that has to be addressed, and the master himself can take steps through the SMS review. In the SMS review, the master can address these things. Every company has got a SMS review. He can put it forward, and if it is not answered properly, it will be exposed during a TMSA audit or any third-party audit. It will be exposed that this company is not following these practices. Only thing what is needed is a strong-willed captain. This is my take on this particular topic.
I want to go controversial now, with malice towards none. Shalabh, if I may ask you, since you asked the question, how confident, during when we sailed, when we were superintendents, we did see on board that there used to be always one or two guys, not every ship. Once in a while, we would see a guy who actually uses the opportunity to go to the doctor to go shopping or go sightseeing. Let's be, we are not saints, none of us are saints. What is it? How do we stop that? How do we stop that on board? There is a typical case we used to have was, whenever the planning was there to do a unit in port, we found one guy who was always having a toothache or, aaj pet mein dard hai, kamar mein dard hai. How do we stop that?
Sir, I completely agree with you, sir. But then somehow, sir, what happens is like you genuinely have a problem.
Sure.
I mean, one of my fellow mates, he addressed this problem. He asked me to share it with you guys. So he said, like, there's sometimes you genuinely have a problem, but the situation on board is such, like, they create such a situation, then you say, I want to go on shore, the medical treatment, the proper diagnosis. It's like you keep on working with the this is what exactly happens when the problem keeps on increasing, and eventually you sign up with the same problem. Then you find out that becomes a big problem when you go back home. So it's like the situation should be such that there should not be a communication gap between the officers, the senior officers and the rating, so that they know, like, they can they can address their problems so that their job is okay.
Captain Naik very aptly answered this, that you should allow the master to do his job. Yeah, and you will have the right people going to the doctor and exclude the swings of the pendulum. Let's put it that way. They will be right in the middle. That's how it should be. Thank you. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Rai, now.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Halbe. And one question which is pending even from our first segment and was raised at our earlier interaction also, was this increased paperwork on board now. I also have seen this and agree to this. In last few years, the paperwork has increased, and directly or indirectly, yes, the control of shore office is now also being on the increase. So to take that question, I think I will invite major management company heads here. Mr. Deepu Kishanchandani, can you take into this that how you handle in the offshore industry and all those power and gas structures that you are particularly managing, sir? Mr. Deepu, sir.
Thank you, Rai, sir. First of all, I completely agree with what is being said, that ISM has, made things with paperwork, concerning paperwork, definitely more. We all are kind of part and, parcel of this issue regarding paperwork. But, there is sometimes a trade-off. Of course, sometimes people joke also, now you need a checklist to decide which checklists have to be filled every month, So yes, I do understand where these issues are coming from, but let's put it in a different perspective also. For example, Rai Saab and many of the old timers we used to sail earlier, we didn't have much of checklists. So the question to first ask is, why did this checklist come? Why did this ISM come? Was there any reason for this madness for all of us to invite an Ajao bhai, ISM le lete hain? That there are issues which have happened in the past. There have been casualties, there have been errors, there have been near misses. Now, when introspection is done on this, you decide on what kind of checklist that is required. And this is where ISM stepped in and decided to have these paperwork come in. Sure, it has ballooned a little bit, and all standard companies, including ours, have been, doing manthan, chintan, ki what you can do. So you first reduce the duplication, you start in seeing what is, necessary, what is not necessary. And this is what I would say. So first step I would say is, these checklists were not there. You didn't have checklists to inside the tank, risk assessment and all that. But we have learned over a period of time what happened. And to prevent these accidents, these have become essential. So the main part of checklists, I don't think we can get away with. Those are really necessary. But I do agree that once it gets into a huge area, then how effectively these checklists are being followed and filled becomes a bit of a question mark. And then it raises these points. What I can say is, each company is governed by an SMS. All of you are part of these processes. We do that in our office as well. Many times, if you find this process is duplicated, there is a management of change, bring it about, and we see how we can, alter the course of this. To say to do away with this and we go back 20 years, I don't know whether that is the solution that we can have to this. That's what I can say. But I do completely agree. We have enough paperwork in our office, audit trails. If there is a simple or a better solution, mujhe bhi bataiye. I will also be interested to figure out how we can, go about tinkering around and still maintaining, what we want to achieve with these regulations that are coming. Thank you, sir.
This indeed has been one of the issues which is being raised at almost all platforms wherever we discuss the shore and ship relation. May I request Mr. Mohan Naik also, if he can add something, with he is also operating a large fleet of tankers. Mr. Mohan Naik, would you like to supplement what Mr. Deepu said?
Actually, I was typing out a message to Deepu about the same thing, because I had spoken about SMS review and MOC is management of change. So the tools are already there with the shipboard staff. And you can always raise up this point to the company. And if the company does not take cognizance of this over and over again, then it will be exposed during third-party audits. So please make use, as seafarers on board, please make use of these very good tools like MOC and SMS review. And it should be used in a very, very confident manner, putting all the evidence together where there is duplication of paperwork. Many times you are finding duplication of paperwork is happening. And the poor seafarer filling checklists unnecessarily when already another checklist is already there. So one more is replacing, because some of the people, without malice to none again, who are in the shore office, they may not be having that much of sailing experience. They just keep generating checklists as and when they get some inputs from their own colleagues, or they get inputs from the colleagues from other company. So it is the master and the chief engineer who should contribute along with the juniors for this SMS review. And the SMS review is a very, very special thing under ISM, which should be used very, very confidently by the master. And secondly, in our company, for example, we have something called Speak Out. In Speak Out, if some unsafe practices or something is happening, then a person can directly approach the DPA. The DPA can be directly approached and spoken to about what the things are. If somebody in the office is not able to listen to you, your pleadings, your requests, then the DPA should be able to answer. And all these things cannot be brushed under the carpet. They will be exposed when you have audits, as I mentioned before. This is I would like to add on this.
Thank you, Mr. Mac. But I also share and agree that paperwork ever since ISM came into being has increased substantially. I also noticed when I was a superintendent that most of the time officers, instead being on the site, whether it's a pumps, turbines, or on the deck, they were in their control rooms filling up the check sheets. So admittedly, this is a very serious issue which has to be looked into. Anyway, thank you.
Rai Sahab, can I come in on this?
Please, please.
Sir, Rai Sahab, देखिए, I would suggest that, as a code of good practice, now we have associations here represented. It is FOSMA, MASA, INSA, ICSA. As a code of good practice, the associations first should, the member lines of the associations should get together on their own and decide, how to on the reduction of paperwork. Then it should be circulated. Then it should be a code of good practice among the member lines. Because as it was said earlier, that if the companies don't agree, the companies, those are the member lines, they should agree. They should decide amongst themselves that how should they reduce the paper and set some benchmark. So this should be some of the takeaway from this session. अपना आपस में हम डिसाइड करते rather than crying wolf, हम आपस में डिसाइड करें कि इतना होना चाहिए. Then at least we can take it from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Chief Engineer Shankar Subramaniam, you had made some comment. Would you like to come in between? Shankar Subramaniam.
Yes, sir. At the present, the topic of paperwork. Presently, I'm noticing, because see, I've been junior engineer maybe 30 years back, 25 years back, and what I find, right, today's juniors are very good at their paperwork. But if you ask them to do some actual work in the sense like knowledge as engineering knowledge or something, they lack that. Not because that they didn't study or something. The practical knowledge what they are supposed to gain as a junior engineer is not being imparted because they're busy doing the paperwork of the chief engineer or the second engineer. Like they're contributing to that thing, okay, form so-and-so number to be filled up before the arrival, form this number. They're very good at that. But I also would like to train them as an engineer, but it's invariably the time given for that is practically pretty less. ISM is good. I'm not saying ISM is bad, but I'm just saying that the amount of paperwork which has been generated, because to show the vetting agencies, the site inspectors that, okay, we have so many things. Well, this one has to be taken up with somewhere, sometime, because this is like, see, even the ships were there before. You have some paperwork which are very critical to the operations. Yes, you keep them, you follow them and everything. But there are so many unnecessary paperworks which, many companies which we are following, and which I do agree that somewhere our training aspect itself has gone haywire. It's not like that, and that is what I wanted to say. My chief engineer used to push me down, okay, getting hands dirty and getting the things done, knowing the knowledge, tracing lines. But nowadays, if you see, I cannot put the juniors into doing those jobs, There's a lot of aspect which needs to be addressed on this.
Okay, Mr. Shankar, thank you so much. And before I go back to our MC, I can see Philip Matthew also want to raise something. Philip, can you come, but be brief, please. We are running short of time. Matthew.
Sir, I think better we skip it. It is too late in the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Then I also have Sonali Banerjee, one of the initial lady chief engineer who did the chief's examination. She would like to comment on what this Miss, she raised some question, Riya. So she will answer on those. Sonali, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Good evening, everybody. And thank you, Raisa, for giving me this opportunity to just share my thoughts on the concerns that have been raised by Ms. Riya. Very valid points. But I would also like to state, I understand today we are far from where, say, in 1999, the first girl passing out of the college and joining a sea. Maybe you could see one, and maybe a couple of years down the line, there were one or two more. But today we have a plethora of them. And this issue today needs to be discussed and addressed more collectively because the numbers are more. When we joined and then we were very few in numbers, so it was very important for us to make sure that we complete our contracts very successfully, and we don't give our employers any opportunity to raise fingers towards having a girl on board. So that consciousness was very much there, and we tried our level best that we don't give them any reason for not hiring any further, having any reservations towards employing more women on board. But coming to this menstrual hygiene and how we dealt with it at that time, I remember we dealt with it the same way that we deal with the sanitization waste and all that stuff. And not that we did anything different, but definitely with more garbage disposal statutory requirements coming in place, we need to collectively think about it. And I'm sure these issues are being taken up after 2019 when IMO wanted to declare this year as empowering women in the maritime sector. Coming to pregnancy, definitely, it is not a disease, but definitely it is a condition which sets a woman kind of unfit for the sea service. So I remember in my case, when I decided, when I felt, the biological clock is ticking, which it does in every girl's case. And at some point she decides that just in case she wants to walk that family way, then she has to take a decision whether she wants to quit sailing or whichever way she wants to be. But like in some cases, what women do is they undergo that and then they take up shore jobs. And we know these days a lot of companies are offering shore jobs to girls and boys who are even say second mate or a third engineer or a fourth engineer level also. So we may consider, if you intend to walk that line and you feel there is not adequate family support around, you can look at those options at stepping ashore. And, that is how you can keep yourself abreast of the maritime requirement, and at the same time, you can keep the career development on. So the answers are not easy, definitely, but it's a conscious choice that a girl makes. And we have to keep ourselves at pace with the maritime industry requirements. Thank you. That's all from me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Anyway, I think that brings us to almost all major questions have been taken. Some questions, if have remain unanswered, we will try to write and come back to the people who asked those questions. And with that, Sanjay Mani, are you there?
Yes, sir, very much.
So can you take over, please?
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Captain Halbe, Mr. Rai. That was fantastic. We have a man here who's been patiently listening to all of us, all the views of the sailors and the show staff and all the discussions. And it's time that we now ask him to present his views, sum up the discussion, present his views on the theme, first of all, and what it means to the industry. Captain Jairam, sir, it's all yours now. Sir, you'll have to unmute yourself. Captain Jairam? Yes, perfect.
Okay, I've been muted long, that's why I got used to being muted. Thank you very much, Sanjay. Thank you very much. It's been a great session. And before we realized it, we have already more than 2 hours together, it's fantastic, and the patience that all of you have shown. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Gagan Pandey of Maritime Destination for this novel concept of a series of webinars at regular intervals of connecting sea and shore. I understand he's going to be conducting one next month also on the 11th. He's already planned the date. So I'm sure that this will bring the seafarers and the shore staff much closer. The points which have been brought out today were excellent, whatever have we been talking. And the second thing I'd like to say is that the dedication of the seafarers is what I'd like to always feel very proud of. Indians have done very well everywhere, in foreign companies, in Indian companies, all over, in shore offices, everywhere, and the dedication has been always there. In the shore staff, has lived up to the standards of ensuring that the staff signed off during the pandemic. That was a great thing that the show staff has done. We have had Captain Rangnekar and many others who spoke about it, and the yeoman service that they have done to the sea staff to go on board as well as to sign off. Chartering of flights has been a great innovation, and I think it is still continuing also. There are a lot of chartered flights moving even today. But one unfortunate thing that is happening today is that there are more seafarers who are coming back to India rather than people who are going to be joining. That means Indians are being replaced by other nationalities. This is a very, very sad thing that is happening today. We have running a lot of chartered flights from Sri Lanka. And there are always the full ship slot are coming back to India. Why? Because the Indians cannot join. So this is something which we do require to put an end to. I'm sure we'll succeed with the way that we are running things. The examinations, Shalabh Agarwal was talking about the examinations and many others also. And I can say that the orals as well as the writtens have nearly started in full force. There are a lot of oral candidates appearing for the examination, where the internal examiner is in Delhi, the external examiner may be in Mumbai, and the candidate is in Lucknow. So this virtual conducting of examination is going on quite well. There is a primary device and a secondary device through which this is being done. I have done it at least 2 or 3 times in a week. So I'm sure that the examinations will continue and the officers will be able to pass the examinations and keep coming up in life. Okay, I'd like to thank, besides Mr. Gagan Pandey, also Captain Sanjay Maini, the master of ceremonies. He's always conducted the programs so very well. And I think in shipping, we've found someone like Captain Sanjay Maini who probably could conduct all our programs in future. Thank you, Sanjay. And I would say the moderators, Captain Shiv Halbe and Rai Saab, who are excellent. You have done this before also, I've seen you all. And you have really kept the time also under control. And I'd like to congratulate also the panelists, starting from Captain Prashant Rangnekar, Captain Mohan Nayak, Ishita Chaturvedi. It was very nice that you were there, Ishita, where you came out with questions for the day. And Deepu, of course, you're always good. I never thought you were so very good in your expressions. Thank you. Captain Rakhi, thank you for being a lawyer and being there for us. Mr. Thakur and Mr. Abdul Ghani. All of you panelists done very well. And I don't want to take more of our time enough for all of us to retire. So thank you very much. Jai Hind. All the best.
Thank you so much, sir. You've always been very kind. And it's good to hear from you after a long time. I think this is our first interaction in the last 1.5 years. But now things are easing down and we should come back to our normal selves where we meet really instead of virtually. So with that, that brings us to a close of this seminar, but no seminar is ever done before the vote of thanks is given. And I would like to take this opportunity to conduct this vote of thanks. It has been a very absorbing session and we are well past the allocated time of the webinar. We saw some fresh perspective to fulfill our objective of the theme. I think Maritime Destination has more material to add to their paper now. And as Captain Jairam said, that we will be doing a third one also. So once all the additions are complete and our full paper will be presented to the various authorities. Mr. Gagan Pandey has this unique ability to recognize issues which have been overlooked by the industry. I remember him conducting this honoring the authors seminar a couple of years ago, and I was so happy to be part of it because I think we all have overlooked that these authors are the ones who actually make us what we are, and we take no time out to thank them for it. So that was a well done seminar, and so is this. Thank you, Mr. Pandey and your team for putting together this event. Wishing you the very best for the future editions. I would like to also thank the sailing staff for not only giving your time to this webinar, but also doing what you do. I have to say that we are very proud of what you do, and your efforts have indeed kept the sanity of the world during this pandemic. I hope the entire world will one day come together to celebrate your profession and how you serve everyday needs of the common man. I think this is a very important mindset that we have to build among the common men, and that is how you all know that we formed the Maritime Awareness Program Society some few years ago. Each of our esteemed panelists have made a mark for themselves in the maritime industry through dedication and integrity. I know personally that each one of you have the welfare of the seafarers right at the forefront. I deal with you practically every day, if not you, then your staff, and I see how devoted you are to the welfare of the seafarers. And Mr. Kim Chandani also pointed this out, that for the amount of work seafarers do, equal amount of work is also being put by the shore staff, and that is so very true. Your views and comments have assured us that they are responsible minds sitting ashore to deal with the concerns of the seafarers. Thank you very much for being a part of this program today. Our moderators for this event are men of great honor and integrity, and well respected across all forums of this great industry. And if you ask, it's like if you ask a common man, do you know Amitabh Bachchan, he'll laugh at you. So who doesn't know them? So is the case with Mr. Rai and Captain Halbe. Your ability to analyze the views of the sailing staff and then present the relevant questions to the panelists was very much appreciated. Thank you so much for giving your time to this webinar. It was indeed an honor to have Captain Jairam with us today. He is a source of inspiration to many of us, especially me. We have a long history together, and I think I've told this to anyone who cares to listen or has time for me, that it was Captain Jairam who got me to earn my first wages, because he cleared my second mate's orals for me. And that too on the first shot, because he was very happy that day. Not that I did any good. So he took a brief interlude from the industry to travel the scope of India in a four-wheel drive. He's now back with a new venture, back to active maritime life. His views today were extremely relevant and goal-oriented. And as humble as he is, he always is the first one to thank people, even though it is he who does most of the work in many organizations that he has headed. And he always sets the benchmark very high. I have seen that. I'm sure he will continue to interact with us and guide us through his immense knowledge and experience of the maritime industry. Thank you, sir, for being here today. It was wonderful to see you. No seminar can be complete without the audience. We all know that. It's like, no, we are talking to each other instead of, there are some people who patiently wait, listen to what is going on. Unfortunately, we are not able to give them time for the question and answers, because 2.5 hours of webinar is quite a lot. And I'm sure that when we do these webinar, actual seminars we used to do in the past, pre-COVID days, things would be better in terms of question and answer sessions, because there's always drinks and dinner to go back to. I would like to apologize for that we could not give you that time. But however, like I said, in actual seminars, there'll be ample time for this. But your support and attendance has meant a lot to us. Thank you so much for being here. And that ends our evening's webinar. Coincidentally, the last one also carried on till nearly 1930, and this is where we end today also. Thank you very much, everyone, and hope to see you in actual very soon. Thank you so much.